Welcome back to my channel, Star Booze.
It's just been so natural at times, Taos. We are unaware that we are, perhaps a powerful way to put it is, our future is being cursed. You are free to curse your destiny, or you might bestow blessings upon the future. Therefore, watch what you say. 2. Believe I adore the part when you say we must dispatch. I believe in that instance, God said, I am everything because I am at the moment. Mine is an alternative perspective. That's what comes after the word I am. I think you're allowing yourself to be in your life. You understand. You are a component of our message. God's dream, you don't know what you know because your life transcends your own, and I have witnessed that. 13 years ago, I never imagined that I'd be with you, sitting here, or we'd be I used to watch the Rockets at that venue. Play. Joel Osteen then took 4.4 COVID loans totaling millions intended for small operations while residing in a $10.5 million home. His church only spends 1% goes to charity. He says that God desires you. Wealthy, but costs $15 for admission to listen to him talk. His television program reaches millions, although he hardly ever speaks of sin or Jesus. We're just regular folks. It's simply discussing how fortunate we are to live living, giving others a blessing, being content, and enjoying positive relationships. Critics accused him of being false, so he purchased 3 donos for another house million. With dwindling attendance and growing disapproval, Osteen's flawless grin cannot conceal the widening fissures. On March 5th, Joel Osteen was born, Houston, Texas, in 1963. He was among 6 children in a household that focused on family, church, and faith. His dad, Osteen, John, had already departed by that time, Southern Baptist tradition, and began a new project. Everything started following a significant change in 1958 when Joel's Lisa, my sister, was born with severe impairments. That moment was pivotal. Everything. John and Dodie, his spouse, embraced faith-based healing and charming Christianity. Only a year later, they established Lakewood Church in 1959 in a dilapidated feed store. There were just 234 seats, but a strong force was starting. By the end of the 1970s, the area had become an expanding church with more than 5,000 persons. Joel grew up observing everything. As his siblings were serving or preaching, Joel remained silent. He was not interested in the spotlight. He liked to assist behind the scenes. He finished high in 1981, Humble High School. Next, he proceeded to radio studies at Oral Roberts University, as well as television. However, less than a year later, he left school. He had no desire for a degree. He wished to construct something with his father. Joel made a significant choice at the age of 19. He dropped out of college in 1982 and returned to Went, Houston to assist with the TV at the church labor. He founded the Ministry of Television. In the same year, he started out little, one national cable and 1 local channel network. Joel remained for 17 years. Behind the lens. He edited, produced, and guided, and even monitored what works his father wore it on Sundays. He ensured every telecast appeared perfect. He desired Lakewood to appear as refined as any program in Hollywood. Joel persisted while others preached buttons, changing the illumination and altering video. He was untrained in preaching and having no formal schooling in theology. However, he was taking in everything, revising hundreds of he learned more from his father's sermons than any classroom may. Even so, he declined to go on stage. His father would inquire to deliver sermons. Joel would always state, "No." He informed him that you were the preacher. I'll make you appear attractive on television. Then, in January, everything was different. 1999. Joel eventually stated on the 17th. Indeed, His first sermon was delivered. 6. His father's heart died a few days later. Assault. The outcome of Joel's first sermon being the final person his father ever heard. Joel was unexpectedly thrust into managing a church with 6,000 member participants. It was not what he wanted. He didn't feel prepared. He didn't preach experience. He was questioned by several. However, something clicked. At the time, around every week, 8,000 people visited Lakewood, not for the country, but big for Houston. 5 years later, everything was different. Bi-weekly attendance had skyrocketed to in the range of 25,000 to 30,000. It was more than just large. It was the America's largest church. Furthermore, it didn't occur accidentally. Joel increased the spending plan for television time. He selected the prime times in big cities. He loaded billboards into roadways. However, his preaching felt more than anything else distinct. They were straightforward, encouraging, full with optimism. People watched, and there remained. The throngs grew to the point where the 8,000-seat Lakewood venue just wasn't sufficient. Joel started discussing it sounded like an impossible thing. Hess stated that they would preach one day to 100,000 people per weekend. Numerous chuckled. Then the most audacious move appeared. Not yet. Lakewood made a deal in 2003 with Houston's city to rent the Little Center. It was the former residence of the Rockets of Houston. This wasn't a minor church space. The sporting event had 16,000 seats. Arena. The total cost of the lease was $12 million for 30 years, with a 30-year extension option for a further 30 years at $22 million. However, the actual shock was caused by the price of the renovation. Lakewood pledged to almost $95 million to change the arena. Today, that amounts to about $158 million. The rebuilding process took 15 months. They erected 5 levels and completely renovated the arena. Within, miles of brand new carpet, waterfalls, rooms, totaling 200,000 square feet, transmitted classrooms and studios. Everything had to feel fresh. People were incredulous. Converting a basketball arena into a residence of devotion. Never before had it been done this way. Lakewood purchased the building for $7.5 outright million. However, the real change occurred. Even earlier, on July 16, 2005. The big opening was that. When the brand new Lakewood church opened, every seat was occupied. 1,000 people showed up. Millions more people watched on television. For many Houston residents, the area where they once observed NBA players was converted into a church, full with great energy, music, and lights vitality. And the crowd continued to expand. Soon, the weekly attendance surpassed $40,000. An estimated 10 people watched TV broadcast, millions of viewers in more than 100 nations. It was more than just a church. No longer. It was a media movement. Empire. Joel Osteen was also present in the middle of everything. Why Joel was so, his message was different. He didn't preach brimstone and fire. He didn't concentrate on judgment or transgression. Rather, had discussed aspirations, hope, and having faith in God and having faith in oneself strategy. It was dubbed Christian light by critics. His supporters, however, were unconcerned. They found solace in his strength and grin. In what he said, he informed others that they weren't damaged. Instead, greater times were coming, and they took him at his word. From the Joel was aware of the media's power to begin with. Only a few. Years ago, Lakewood's television, 92% of Americans watched the telecast. Homes. Almost all of the houses in the nation. Approximately 10 million Americans watched each week, and even more observed from more than 100 nations worldwide, the entire world. By 2017, the media in the church $25 million is spent annually on attempts, but they were successful. Lakewood started AXM is a real radio station. Joel began performing in stadiums for Night of Hope concerts. In every location he visited, tens of thousands appeared, and everything was successful because his. The message was straightforward, upbeat, and unambiguous. Joel Osteen's publication of Your Best Life. In October of 2004, the majority of people didn't you can count on it to do a lot. He had never, not a celebrity but a pastor and author. However, in only 3 months, the book had sold more than 500,000 copies. By May of 2005, 1 million had been reached. Just that was amazing. However, it remained on the for more. See? The New York Times bestseller list, over 200 weeks in a row, nearly 4 years. It sold more than 4 million copies overall. See, globally, a Christian wasn't the only one. Book no more. It was now a cultural struck. The combination of inspiration, faith, and straightforward optimism that connected with everyone from worshipers to those who have never interacted. A Bible. Joel's cordial tone made it seem simple to read. His thoughts on leading it felt like a better existence. That book didn't simply make him well known. It altered the way religious writers penned and marketed books. Forever. Joel, however, didn't stop with simply a single book. He transformed his achievement into a whole company. He authored more than 15 books, and a minimum of 7 of them turned into the New York Times bestsellers. His work from 2005, Become A. He earned $13 million from Better You in Advance funds and royalties. His life, the events were considerably more significant. Each and every speech he may make between $100,000 and $200,000. He packed stadiums all across the United both domestically and internationally. Additionally, he constructed a massive merchandise company that sells presents, clothing, CDs, and books. The majority of it sold through the enormous Lakewood church online or in a gift shop. Next came his empire on social media. 25 million, 10 million Facebook followers, 10 million, 5 million on Instagram and Twitter. These platforms added even more pay attention, sponsors as well as funds. Next, Joel took an action in 2013 that no other on this scale the pastor had performed. He started a national tour of arenas dubbed Hopeful Night. They weren't free. Happenings. They claimed that he hardly cited the Bible and stated that he urges it felt like salvation was an afterthought. In contrast to John Osteen, his father, who taught profound lessons from the Bible, Joel's style seems to be more of an amusement, as opposed to theology. The remarks were harsh. 2020. When the pandemic struck, Lakewood Church obtained a loan of $4.4 million from the federal government via the Paycheck Program for Protection. It was intended to assist. While small businesses are able to survive, Lakewood had an annual budget of $90 million, and the value of Osteen alone was tens of millions. People were furious. The church claimed that none of the funds were used for Victoria, Osteen, or Joel Osteen. Finally, they gave the money back in full, but there was harm. It caused a nationwide discussion of churches, finances, and assistance from the government. Then the shocking news arrived. Lakewood spent only 1.3% of its budget of $90 million on outreach and missions. Only $1.2 million. He stated that setbacks will come, treachery, and things that aren't fair will arrive. How you handle these transgressions. In the meantime, $25.1 million went to the TV ministry received $31.7 million weekly services, in addition to millions of events, administration, and fundraising. That eyebrows lifted. A church should give the impoverished more attention. The lost. Hungry? For many, this validated their fears. Lakewood was more media empire than ministry, and Joel Osteen, However, stated that he doesn't take a pay from the church. Since then, he has not 2004. His estimated net worth is between 50, and his books generate 100 million in speaking engagements. Just his debut novel, over 4 million copies of Your Best Life Now were sold. Dot copies. His home is worth $10.5 million. Houston. Mansion, with a second residence, $3 million. Some people respect that achievement. Some claim it's evidence that his gospel is for him exclusively, but working. Disputation accompanied him all the way to the courthouse. In Lakewood was sued in 2011 by an electronic band for exploiting their song, as well as the Osteen following the expiration of a license. They requested $3 million. According to Lakewood, it was a miscommunication. In 2012, the judge supported the church. Yet, the case demonstrated how enormous and untidy an empire of religious media might exist. Okay, folks, you can all have a seat. Thus, it's great to have you at Lakewood. Consider yourself fortunate. Additionally, this has resulted in one persistent issue: absence of openness in the U.S. Churches are exempt from reporting their funds to the IRS, same, to other nonprofits. Mega-churches can therefore receive millions of money without paying taxes, without demonstrating to the general audience how the funds is used up. Private planes are used by several leaders. Some people reside in mansions. Additionally, the majority of donors never look at the numbers, even when reports such as Lakewood are shared by churches. They frequently display enormous pieces moving to pay and the media with minimal for philanthropic purposes. That quiet, that concealment, it's caused a lot of folks to inquire. Inquiries. Is God at the center of this? Is it simply good company? In August of 2017, Hurricane Houston was severely impacted by Harvey. The streets changed into waterways. It left thousands stranded. Shelter was quickly needed. A single structure stood dry and tall. Church at Lakewood. It could accommodate more than 16,000 individuals. However, its doors remained closed. The Church of Joel Osteen stated on the internet that the structure was unavailable due to flooding, although residents didn't believe it. Images and videos demonstrated that the roads surrounding the church were dry with no signs of flooding. The internet blew up. The hashtag #OpenLakewood. The church grew like wildfire. People were upset. Even celebrities voiced their opinions. They stated, the wealthy church shouldn't abandon it in an emergency. Osteen, valued at more than $50 million, initially said nothing. Next, eventually, under criticism, the church opened. A few days later. However, the harm was finished. The general populace was not persuaded. They're called companies such as Mattress Max Furniture Shop that opened only away. Why not Lakewood? It wasn't Thales time. Hurricane Beryl in 2025 struck. There was no power. The temperature rose. Lakewood distributed 40,000 bottles of water. They distributed food. The pastors, the initial reaction of the public to the storm was to inquire with his 6 million fans join him in prayer on Twitter for his fellow citizens of Texas. However, a lot of people on social media weren't content and remarked, "You can do better." Nevertheless, the internet made a joke about, does Joel have the doors locked? Once more, even members of the religion stated they couldn't believe it was open. The Harvey's shadow was still there. Additionally, he was not limited to hurricanes. In 2014, according to their relatives, a church usher seized their threw the infant's car seat off a pew. The 18-month-old infant fell face first. The family departed from Texas. Traumatized, everything was disputed by Lakewood. However, they later made a payment, $15,000 to pay. They made a charitable claim, immunity, but at a cost. People began. How does a church this large defend its citizens? After that, a darker day. February 11th. A woman with the name of Janice Yvonne in 2024 Moreno entered Lakewood Church carrying an AR-15. She brought her son, who is 7 years old, alongside her. According to her, she had a bomb in her backpack. It was 1:53 p.m. when she opened a hallway fire. She dismissed roughly 30 rounds. One man, 47, was shot. Security-related police retaliated. They killed Moreno. However, amid the confusion, her Samuel, a small son, was shot in the head. Pure heartbreak was the result. You are not like the others. You possess the blessing. Samuel required 2 urgent operations. Half of his body was removed by doctors. Skull. He lost a significant portion of his weeks in front of the lobe. They were unable to even assess his mental activity. He was also delicate. His rabbi grandmother donated unpleasant internet updates. Samuel left. Days later, a ventilator. He survived with the grandmother of his father till she passed the following year. Another individual, AA volunteer, age 57, was shot in the hip. He lived, but the entire incident rocked the community to its foundation. Individuals. How could this have happened? Lakewood. Was enormous, approximately 45,000 per week people show. Up. It's got cash. It has safety. However, Moreno entered with 2 firearms and a weapon-filled bag. Calmly, she aimed her rifle at an unarmed guard to enter. There were off-duty police officers there. She was stopped. However, by then, it was too late. Security didn't work. Videos of surveillance demonstrated how simple it was to let her enter. She possessed a background of mental disease, schizophrenia. She had a criminal document. There was a Palestine sticker on her rifle. Police discovered anti-Semitic texts, conspiratorial theories, even commendation for terrorist organizations. Nevertheless, she purchased the AR-15 is only 2 months old. Previously, there are no red flag laws in Texas. She was unabated, declares, "I think God's Son is Jesus Christ. He's brought back to life and, he's my rescuer. He seems like a believer to me. Like me in Christ." Following the shooting, Osteen said to the assembly, "Have faith. Don't back down." He prayed that the casualties. He prayed for Moreno, too. His comments brought some individuals serenity. Others didn't. Critics claimed he disregarded the actual problems. Access to firearms, mental health, malfunctioning systems. Samuel's grandmother pleaded for stricter legislation. She joined other religious leaders. However, Osteen concentrated on optimism and progress. Ahead. It wasn't enough for many. The police started a thorough investigation. They spent a year at work. February, they handed the case over to the district in 2025 lawyer's office. A grand jury would make a decision immediately. The emphasis wasn't only on the shooter. It was turned on. Everything. The way the church reacted, how security was compromised, and how the system used a weapon to lead a sick woman. Conflict. Prior to then, Moreno's previous people had been warned by in-laws. They informed the church. They said authorities, but nobody intervened to stop her. Now, that inability was named Samuel. Years of confidence were shattered in minutes. There's also another thing. Lakewood is becoming older, not only in years, but in followers. Youth, Gen Z, and the millennial generation are leaving from the church. 16% of millennials go to church on a regular basis. Gen Z simply 15%. That is the lowest in the U.S. Past. They want meaning, but not through ostentatious preaching or large constructions. They desire activity, community, genuineness. The message from Lakewood of Prosperity is incomprehensible to them. Small groups, activism, and digital faith.